Hey, welcome to Bussey's Garage. I've been thinking about making this video for a while now. Just a couple of quick tips and tricks on how I use my hammocks. Specifically, I use a Blackbird XLC. So there's a couple of things I do that make camping a lot more comfortable. Also, there's a couple of things I do on setup that give you some options in the middle of the night for comfort. All right, let me get onto the hammock here and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so this is my hammock. It's a Blackbird XLC, and the first little tip I want to show you is how I run the underquilt for an option at night, depending on what the temperature is going to be. Alright, so the first tip I have right here is this is the head end of my hammock, and I'm going to take it apart so that you can see how this works. But this is the net top that ties on to the Blackbird XLC, and then I'll just unzip it the rest of the way and reach in here and show you what this is. This is the head end of the underquilt, and this is how it comes stock from Warbonnet. So as you assemble the hammock, you just simply place this loop over the gathered end, and bingo, you have the proper tension with the other side connected or the other end connected to get you the proper suspension and keep you warm. However, I'm a little bit of a cold sleeper, so even on a warm night, I might start out with the hammock real loose, and I might tighten it up later. So the way I do that is I've tied an extra piece of line on here, which allows me to drop that hammock underquilt down inside and still keep it in relative position. The underquilt stays in relative position inside this top cover, and at night, if I feel like I'm just getting a little bit cool, all I have to do is hop out. In fact, I could even reach around and do this. Just grab the line, pull it the rest of the way out, and fasten it to the gathered end again, and now it's tensioned right up against the bottom of the hammock for full warmth and protection. And of course, you just this can be tied on, or in a lot of cases, if you're not in a buggy area, I don't even bother retying it. A lot of times I don't even bother adjusting it at night. If it's a warm night, I'll just put it on this setting, and if it's a cold night, I'll pull it up and put it on the tight setting. And that works really well. I sleep in the hammock every week, and of course I sleep in it when I'm camping too, so I've gotten accustomed to what kind of temperatures I need. So I bought the warmest underquilt that Warbonnet makes, and then I adjust my temperature range simply by adding some slack, dropping it inside away from the hammock, or pulling it up against the hammock. Very simple adjustment, no messing around, no drawstrings, just boom, boom. All right, here we are at the foot end of the hammock, and I'll show you a little thing that is fairly important. When you're setting up, I'll take this apart, and you use either the full cover, winter cover, or if you use the net top cover, it's fairly important that the bungee for the underquilt be tied inside the hammock and not outside the cover. Because if you tie it outside the cover like this, the bungee can't really work. It's pulling against the cover, and you won't get a change in your tension down below. When you lay in the hammock, it'll pull on the bungee, but it can't go anywhere because it's up against the net top. So when you hang the underquilt by the bungee and you put the top on, I don't recommend that you put it this way. Put it this way, and that way on the inside you have the ability for the underquilt to adjust its tension as needed to your particular body shape, or how, you know, the actual lay. Don't forget your drip lines. Something else I do for setup that makes it very quick for me, and I highly recommend that you use the Warbonnet angle finder to find out what angle you like. And I've done so, but what I did for quick reference is learn the head and foot points of my hammock when it's in the air, so I'll know exactly what angle that I want it at and how high off the ground. So for me, that typically ends up being about shoulder high. If this thing hits my shoulder right there, then the foot end is just right. Additionally, I always make sure that the head end of the hammock hits me right about the belt line, somewhere on the point of my hip right there where that bone is. For me, it works perfect as far as the angle that I'm going to be at and how far off the ground I'm going to be. Of course, you'll probably find your own setup, but this is what I use. It's a quick reference. When I'm adjusting the hammock, I just make sure this hits there, make sure that the foot end hits my shoulder, boom, I'm done. One of the suggestions I want to make if you buy a Blackbird hammock system is I was all into subdued colors when I bought this, and one thing I found out real quick on a camping trip is that when you are in the dark and you're finding your way back to the hammock, it's very difficult to distinguish between the underquilt and the underquilt protector and the hammock, especially if you're sleepy and you're not really paying attention. So on this particular trip, what I did was I actually sat in there, which tore the bottom of the underquilt protector right out, and I went on the ground with a thud. So the guys at Warbonnet were kind enough to repair this for me. I really appreciate it. The only thing that was damaged was the underquilt protector, and it tore part of the winter top cover. But what I would suggest you do, and what I did, I bought a bright orange hammock, and if you're worried about visibility, you can't see it when this thing's all buttoned up. But at night, if you've got a dark quilt protector or a camo quilt protector, which is my other one has, and a dark colored underquilt, then you have this bright orange hammock, and it's real easy to see where your butt's going to go, and you will not end up on the ground, you'll end up in the hammock. A couple more quick tips that I want to share are the pillows that I use and how I use them. So once I'm rocking the hammock, and a Blackbird is very forgiving with regard to the calf ridge. It's almost non-existent. But I found out through trial and error with my first few hammocks that one of these pillows stuck right here is a blessing, because that elevates your knees just enough to where you never feel like they're locking out. Now, in a Blackbird or any quality hammock, it's really not an issue, but it just, for me, makes it that much more comfortable, and the pillow doesn't weigh anything. I mean, I could throw that in my pack, don't even know it's in there, and it works out really well for comfort for me. And then as far as the head pillow, this is what I do. Now the trick with this thing, this is the Sea to Summit, the small one, I don't fill it up all the way. I leave it really, really mushy. And the trick for me is to make sure that it just supports my neck, doesn't lift my head, and it doesn't let my head, have a lot of pressure against the hammock. So I just throw it in like this, backwards actually, and just enough air in there to support my my neck. Keeps my neck and my head in a fairly straight position. Any kind of a pillow under your head in a hammock, for me, tends to make me feel like my head's cocked forward. I like my head on the hammock, but I like my neck supported. So this does it. Doesn't weigh anything. These are my comfort items, if you will. The only other thing I do that probably a lot of you do or don't do is I have a pad under my feet inside the sleeping bag when it's cold, and that's for insulation purposes. Otherwise, I don't bother with it. But these two pillows always come with me, and they just make my night. I don't wake up till dawn. Okay, so I'll give you a quick tour of the hammock, and you can see that the setup I'm using there, I've got the hammock head tied to this tree right here, and then I've got the foot of the hammock tied to kind of an A-frame system there. And I do have a video on how to put this together. You can find it on my channel. It's called Hammock something or other. I've only got a half a dozen videos, so you'll see it on there. Anyway, very easy to set up. In fact, here's a time lapse of me setting it up last night. Okay, so this is my first Blackbird XLC. I've had several other hammocks, but this one here, once I bought this hammock, I immediately realized that this is gonna be the one. I'm using marlin spikes and Whoopie slings on this one. I have my other one set up with just straps, and that's really my preference. It's much simpler. It doesn't really weigh anymore, and I just prefer it. The Whoopie slings work fine. It just depends on personal preference, I think. This one here, I have the net top on it. I have my other one set up with the full winter top, and that's the one I use in colder weather. I hope those little tips and tricks were helpful for some of you out there. Those are things that I have encountered I hadn't seen in other videos, and yeah, they might make your night a little more enjoyable. Hammock camping is a lot of fun. It's very comfortable. If you're thinking about getting a hammock, I highly recommend a Blackbird XLC. If you're tall like me, I'm 6'1", and fits me perfect. So anyway, take care. We'll see you.